I was 9 when I realized I wasn't the favorite. It was a Sunday afternoon, backyard barbecue, sun blazing, the kind of day where everything smells like sunscreen and smoke. My Uncle Dave was telling his usual recycled jokes, my mom was yelling about overcooked corn, and my brother Josh? He was being paraded around like a local celebrity. He had just won a middle school science fair. Not because he was smart, he literally copied a potato battery experiment from YouTube. Didn't even bother changing the title. But nobody cared. He came home with a plastic trophy and suddenly the backyard turned into a shrine. Dad grilled steaks. In Josh's honor. Mom pulled out her fancy wine. Grandpa even gave him a $50 bill and a speech about carrying the family name with pride. I had also brought something home that week, a B+ on my math test. I was actually proud of it. I'd been struggling with long division and finally cracked it after staying up late for 3 nights. So I asked quietly, "Can I get a steak too?" Dad didn't even look up from the grill. "You want a steak for a B+? Aim higher, buddy." Buddy. Like I was the neighbor's kid tagging along. That moment stuck. It wasn't about the meat. It was about what it meant. I wasn't Josh. And that meant I didn't matter. That pattern never broke. When Josh got caught stealing baseball cards from the corner store. Boys will be boys. I once broke a glass while doing dishes and got grounded for a week. He got a bike. Just because. I got a lecture about appreciating what I had, and a used helmet from a garage sale. By high school, the favoritism was industrial grade. Josh crashed Mom's car during a joyride? He's going through a phase. I forgot to mow the lawn once? Irresponsible. Unreliable. Disrespectful. I used to try harder. I joined clubs, got decent grades, stayed out of trouble. I just wanted one moment, one, where they'd look at me like I belong. Where I wasn't just the afterthought standing in Josh's golden shadow. But when Josh turned 18, they threw him a surprise party with lights, speakers, a full taco bar. My 18th? I got a Facebook post from Mom at 9 p.m. that just said, "Happy birthday!" When it came time for college, I got accepted to a solid state university. Tuition wasn't insane, but I still needed help. I remember the conversation perfectly. "Mom, I got in," I said, holding out the acceptance letter like it was a golden ticket. She looked up from her phone. "Oh, that's nice, honey. Do you think you and Dad could help with books or maybe dorm stuff?" She blinked. "We thought you were going to try for community college? Maybe live at home?" Dad chimed in from the other room. "We're not made of money. College is a luxury, not a right. You want it, you pay for it." Fair enough. Except 6 months later, Josh went to a DJ school in Ibiza. I'm serious. A full entrepreneurial music program. Cost nearly $50,000. I found out from his Instagram post. "Europe, I have arrived." So yeah? That was the final nail. I stopped asking for help. Took out student loans. Picked up night shifts, security work, freelance design, whatever paid. Slept maybe 4 hours a night. Lived off instant noodles and dollar coffee. And I made it. Graduated on time, no ceremony, no proud family selfie. Just me walking home in a wrinkled cap and gown, tossing it on the couch like it was a costume from someone else's life. Fast forward a few years, I got a marketing job. Then another. Then found my groove in real estate branding. Not flashy, but I worked hard, built a reputation, stacked some savings. I bought a condo. Not huge, but it was mine. For once, I didn't feel like a background character. Josh? He came back from Europe broke, started 3 businesses, in 2 years, a smoothie pop-up, a crypto vlog, and something about biohacking skincare. All failed. He moved back in with Mom and Dad. Rent-free. Living in the same room he had as a teenager, except now it had RGB lights and a gaming chair he couldn't afford. And still, he was the center of the universe. I hadn't spoken to any of them in nearly 2 years when I got a call from an old realtor friend. You still looking for investment properties? He asked. Depends. What V you got? There's a 3-bed house going up for auction. Needs work. Good bones, though. Owners defaulted on the mortgage. He sent me the address. It was my childhood home. The house my parents and Josh still lived in. I stared at the address on my phone like it was a ghost from my past. It was real. My childhood home. The same beige 2-story that smelled like burnt toast and cheap air freshener. The same house where my brother was praised for microwaving popcorn while I was grounded for forgetting to take out the trash. I hadn't thought about that place in years. Not since I stopped answering my mom's passive-aggressive texts or dodging the family group chat that somehow only celebrated Josh's birthday. Now it was just a line on a foreclosure auction listing. Is it still occupied? I asked the realtor. He hesitated. Yeah. Owners are still there. They've got 90 days post-auction, depending on the new buyer's plans. My jaw tightened. Owners. Still there. Mom. Dad. Josh. Still clinging to a house they didn't even pay for anymore. I'll take it, I said without thinking. Through my holding company. No names on the paperwork. You're sure? He asked. You haven't even seen the inside. Oh, I smiled. I've seen it enough. Buying it was the easy part. I outbid the other investors, just enough to not draw attention. My LLC handled the paperwork. Within a week, I owned the house where I'd been forgotten, ignored, and used as a verbal punching bag for 20 years. And the irony? They didn't even know. They just assumed some bank bought it. They kept living there like nothing had changed, 3 adults pretending they were still a family. 2 weeks after the purchase, I drove by the house. Just to see it. Nothing had changed. The same cracked walkway. The front porch lights still flickering. Mom's plastic flamingos still leaning at awkward angles like they were drunk. I parked across the street, heart pounding. I half expected the house itself to yell at me for not getting straight A's. Then the front door opened. Josh walked out wearing sweatpants and sunglasses. At 3 p.m. He yawned, stretched, scratched his stomach, and sat on the porch with a Red Bull. No job. No urgency. Just vibes and entitlement. A second later, I saw Dad through the window, shouting into a phone, probably arguing with the utility company about grace periods. And Mom? She stepped outside with a little watering can, humming like nothing was wrong. Like their house wasn't already gone. Like the clock wasn't ticking. And I realized they had no idea. I spent that night planning. I wasn't going to evict them out of rage. That would be too easy. Too fast. No, I wanted this to mean something. I remembered every skipped birthday, every snide remark, every time they bragged about Josh's 10th failed hustle while ignoring my small victories. So I made a few calls. I had a contact who worked with transitional housing for young people aging out of foster care. They were always short on space, always scraping for funding. I asked if they'd be interested in turning a 3-bedroom home into a short-term shelter, rent-free for a year. A safe place with real beds and working showers and dignity. They said yes. Suddenly, the house that crushed me? It was going to save someone else. But first, I had to let my parents know the fairy tale was over. I didn't send a letter. I didn't knock on their door. I sent them an email. Subject line: Time's up. It was short. Cold. Perfect. Hello? As the legal owner of 218 McAllister Drive, you are hereby notified that your tenancy ends in 30 days. This is not negotiable. Please vacate the property by date. Failure to comply will result in formal eviction proceedings. Do not contact me directly. This is your only warning. Property owner. And I signed it with the LLC name. 3 hours later, my phone blew up. 3 hours. That's how long it took for the first voicemail to drop. It was Mom. Of course it was Mom. Sweetheart? I don't know if this is some kind of joke, but we got this email. About eviction? From a company? There must be some mistake. Please call me back. Love you. Love you. Right. 10 minutes later, voicemail number 2. This time, her voice had that sharp tone she used when I forgot to smile during Josh's high school graduation pictures. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. If you know anything about this, you need to come clean right now. Your father is livid. Another 5 minutes, voicemail 3. Dad. Is this your doing? You think this is funny? You trying to scare your mother? You think this is how a son treats his parents after everything we've done for you? Call me. I didn't. Instead, I watched the missed calls climb like a scoreboard. Josh finally chimed in around voicemail 9. Dude. If this is you, that's low, man. Real low. You think you're better than us because you make some money now? Come say it to my face. That voicemail ended with a long, smug silence. Classic Josh, trying to sound tough while standing in the very house he was mooching off. I'll admit, part of me wanted to reply. Not to explain, just to say, now you know what it feels like to be powerless. But I didn't. Instead, I drove by again the next day. I parked across the street. Sunglasses on. Windows up. Josh was pacing on the porch with his phone, gesturing wildly. Dad was outside yelling at a guy in a suit, probably someone from the county. Mom was sitting on the steps, head in her hands. And me? I was sipping coffee like it was the best day of my life. Because it kind of was. That evening, the emails started. Mom again. We're confused. Hurt. We just need time. We didn't know things were that bad. We can work something out. We're family. Ah, yes. Family. That magic word they only dust off when they want something. The same family that forgot every birthday after I moved out. The family that called me selfish for not helping Josh buy a car after I walked 5 miles to work every day during college. Suddenly, they were the victims. Suddenly, they were confused. They weren't confused when I slept on an air mattress in a Rochi apartment at 20 while Josh was on his third spiritual retreat in Costa Rica. They weren't confused when they missed my graduation but posted throwback pics of Josh's on Facebook with hashtags like #ProudParents. So no, I wasn't replying. I did, however, instruct my property manager to send the second notice. The final one. Certified mail. Hand-delivered. No excuses. 30 days. Then the locks get changed. And I didn't stop there. I started renovations paperwork for the new shelter. Reached out to donors. Called a guy who used to sleep in the back of a van and now runs a nonprofit for homeless youth. He said, "You're donating your family's house?" I smiled. "I'm repurposing the mistake." He laughed. "That's cold, man. And kind of beautiful." 3 days later, my mom showed up at my apartment. Not called. Not texted. She showed up. I didn't answer the buzzer. She stayed for 20 minutes. Then left a note. "Please don't do this. We're sorry. We didn't know how much we hurt you. Can't we just talk?" No. Because talking never worked when I was 12, crying in the backyard after being blamed for something Josh did. It didn't work when they told me to get over it. Now, they'd get over this. The eviction notice had done its job. The voicemails slowed, the emails turned colder, and Josh finally broke radio silence with a text that said, "Okay. Real talk. Was this you?" No hello. No apology. Just ego, cracked, but still somehow inflated. I didn't answer. A few hours later, he sent another. "I know it was you. Only someone spiteful enough to hold a grudge this long would do something like this. And guess what? You're still just a side character. Always bitter. Always small." Ah. There it was. The Josh I remembered. The one who used to sneak into my room, take my stuff, then tell my parents I lost it. The one who got suspended in high school for vaping in the bathroom and somehow I got grounded because I didn't tell on him fast enough. This latest tantrum wasn't new. But it was proof. Proof that for the first time in his charmed little life, he was scared. The next day, I got a call from my property manager. "They're trying to fight it," she said. "Said they didn't realize the house was sold. They think it was some scam. You sure you don't want to reach out personally?" "I'm sure. Because your brother just called me a corporate parasite." I burst out laughing. "Sounds about right," I said. Still, I wasn't prepared for what came next. That weekend, I went to visit the shelter group we were partnering with. I wanted to meet the director in person, shake hands, see the kids. We were going to make the house something good: clean beds, counseling support, a stocked pantry. That was the goal. That was the point. But when I pulled into the driveway the next morning, something was off. The flamingos were gone. The porch was empty. Windows dark. For the first time in my life, that house looked abandoned. Then I noticed the mailbox was stuffed. A plastic tarp flapped where a gutter used to be. I knocked on the door. No answer. I tried the side door. Unlocked. Inside, chaos. Boxes. Trash bags. Furniture half covered in sheets. A microwave on the floor. A broken TV leaning against the wall. And in the living room? Josh. Alone. Wearing the same hoodie he probably hadn't washed in a week. He looked up, eyes bloodshot. "So," he said, "you finally showed up." I didn't say anything. I just stared at him. This was the guy they ruined me for. The one they drained their savings for? The prodigal son who never left the couch. "You gonna gloat?" he asked. "Take a picture? Send it to your therapist or whatever?" "No," I said. "Just came to see the damage." He laughed, dry, bitter. "Well, congrats. You got what you wanted. You win." "I didn't do this to win." He stood up, staggering slightly. "Spare me the self-righteous speech. You bought the house just to humiliate us." "No," I replied. "I bought the house to stop pretending you mattered more than I did." That shut him up. He sat back down. "You don't get it," he said after a pause. "They made me into this." I blinked. "What?" "They never let me fail. Never made me take responsibility. They told me I was special. That I'd be great. And then they bailed me out every time I wasn't." He wasn't crying. But he looked like a kid who finally realized Santa wasn't real. "I didn't even want Ibiza," he added. "I wanted to go to art school. They said it was a waste of time." I was quiet. It wasn't sympathy I felt. It wasn't forgiveness. It was pity. Because while they made me invisible, they turned him into a ghost. 30 days, I said finally. "That's the deadline. After that, the locks change." He didn't argue. He just nodded. Then whispered, "What are you doing with the house?" I looked around the room. Stained carpet. Peeling walls. Broken family. Turning it into something real, I said. Something that gives people a chance. He didn't respond. He just stared at the floor like it owed him something. I walked out without saying goodbye. And for the first time since I was a kid in that house, I didn't look back. I thought the worst of it was over. I was wrong. Turns out, my parents weren't going quietly. Somewhere between the second and third bottle of boxed wine, my mom decided to post on Facebook a long, emotional, heavily fictional essay about how her estranged son had stolen their home out from under them and left his loving family on the street. She attached a picture of the house, our old house, with the caption, "Please pray for us. We're losing everything. Even our own blood can betray us." Oh, and she tagged me. Yeah. Within hours, my inbox turned into a dumpster fire. High school classmates. Distant aunts. Even my old Boy Scout troop leader messaged me. "Is it true what your mother said? I never thought you'd be capable of this." Capable of what, exactly? Buying a house they defaulted on and repurposing it to shelter actual homeless kids instead of grown-up freeloaders. But she knew what she was doing. painting me as the cold, ungrateful child. Guilt was her love language. The funniest part? She still didn't know I was turning the house into a shelter. I was saving that for last. Because the moment I revealed it, the moment the town saw what I was doing, all her teary manipulation was going to explode like a rotten piñata. But before that, I had to handle the public fallout. So I posted a comment on her thread. Since this is apparently going to be litigated on Facebook instead of through adult conversation, I'd like to clarify a few things. 1. You didn't lose your house. You failed to make payments for over a year. It was auctioned. 2. I bought it legally through my LLC. No secrets, no schemes. Just business. 3. I offered no negotiation because this family never negotiated with me, only demanded. 4. The new purpose of the house will be announced soon. It involves helping people who actually need it. Thank you for your concern. No, I will not be taking questions at this time. Boom. The comment got more likes than her original post. Even better? Some of her own friends started turning on her. I thought you said the house was fine just a few weeks ago. Didn't Josh have a BMW last summer? What happened to that? Why didn't you just ask your son for help before it got this far? I almost felt bad. Almost. 2 days later, I released the press statement. A clean little write-up on my LLC's business site. Shared it with the local paper. Nothing dramatic. Just the facts. Former family home will be converted into transitional housing for unhoused youth in partnership with Harbor Steps Outreach. Target launch, fall. All residents will be referred through vetted social services. No names. No drama. Just purpose. I went by the house that night. The porch was empty again. The flamingos weren't just gone, the whole front yard looked drained. Like the house was finally exhaling. And taped to the door, barely hanging on in the wind, was a note in my dad's handwriting. You really think this is what she would have wanted? She. My grandmother. The only person who ever treated me like I mattered. The same woman who once told me, sometimes, the best thing you can do with your pain is make sure no one else has to feel it. So yeah? I think it's exactly what she would have wanted. 30 days. That's all they had. And somehow, my parents and Josh still thought they could wait me out. Like I'd magically cave, show up with an apology cake and a rent-free extension. Instead, I showed up with a locksmith. And a rep from Harbor Steps Outreach. Eviction day was cloudy. Poetic, really. Gray skies, light wind, like even the weather was tired of their drama. We pulled up to the house at exactly 9 a.m. The rep from Harbor Steps, Nina, was a short woman in a bright blue windbreaker with the calmest energy I've ever seen. She smiled at me like we were just checking in for brunch. Ready? I nodded. More than you know. The locksmith got to work. Nina clipped a clipboard to her hip. I stood on the curb, hands in pockets, watching the last chapter of that house finally crack open. Then the front door slammed open. Josh. Shirtless, sweaty, and somehow holding a vape and a Pop-Tart at the same time. You've got to be kidding me, he growled. You brought cameras? I didn't. But now I wish I had. Behind him, Mom came rushing out in her bathrobe. What is this? What are you doing? Executing a legal lock change, I said. You could have warned us. I did. You got 30 days. That was 30 days ago. Dad stumbled out last, holding a mug like he thought he could scare me with coffee breath and judgment. We raised you. I shrugged. Poorly. The locksmith popped the door. Nina handed me the new keys. That sound, that click, was the cleanest thing I'd heard in years. They stood there on the lawn, stunned. You're just kicking your own family out? Josh barked. Over what? Old drama? I stared at him. No. I'm kicking out the people who convinced themselves I wasn't family unless I was useful. They had no comeback. Just a storm of disbelief and wounded pride. So I turned around, handed the keys to Nina, and said the words I'd been waiting to say since I was 15. "It's yours now." She walked inside with quiet purpose, like the building had been waiting for someone to care again. I followed. It was a mess, of course. The walls were stained. The kitchen looked like it had survived a frat party and a war. But it was ours now. A blank slate. Room by room, we took inventory. Bedroom 1 stripped bare. Bedroom 2, old mattress, broken blinds. Bedroom 3, Josh's room, LED lights and crushed Red Bull cans. I laughed. Loud and free. The kind of laugh that echoes in your chest. Outside, I could still hear them. Arguing. Complaining. Dad called someone. Mom was fake crying into her phone. Josh kicked a recycling bin. But I didn't care. Because they weren't my responsibility anymore. That house wasn't their throne. It wasn't even their failure anymore. It was my beginning. And someone else's chance. Nina looked over at me while we were measuring the kitchen counters. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than ever. You don't have to tell me what this place meant to you. I think I already did," I said, pointing at the lock. With that, the house opened 3 months later. Fresh paint. New beds. A working fridge that didn't sound like a dying raccoon. We gutted the carpet, patched the roof, and turned my old bedroom, the one my parents once made me share with Josh, into an office for the in-house counselor. It smelled like lemon cleaner and second chances. The front door had a new keypad lock. Only one person had the code. Nina. Harbor Steps kept everything low-key, no big ribbon cutting, no news articles. Just 3 beds, 3 residents, and a staff that gave a damn. The day it opened, I dropped by with a box of snacks and some welcome kits. Inside, one of the residents was sitting on the couch, quietly flipping through a donated graphic novel. 17 years old. Wore a hoodie 2 sizes too big and had the same look I used to wear at that age, like he was waiting for the next thing to go wrong. Nina introduced us. "This is Miles," she said. He looked up, cautious. Hey, I said back. "You settling in okay?" He shrugged. "Better than the shelter downtown. At least there's a door here that locks." That hit harder than I expected. I nodded and smiled. "Yeah. That's important." He looked around. "This place used to be someone's house, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "It was. What happened?" "They stopped appreciating it." After that, I stayed in the car for a while. Just sat there, watching the front door, thinking about everything. About the kid who used to sleep in that bedroom and dream about escaping. About the version of me that still flinched every time a phone buzzed, expecting guilt, not love. About how the thing that used to feel like a prison now felt like a gift, not for me, but for someone who still had time to turn it around. That night, I got a voicemail. From Mom. "We saw the post about the shelter. I guess that was your plan all along. You made your point. Are you happy now? You've embarrassed us in front of everyone. Your father says it's your legacy now. Turning your back on your blood." I deleted it. Then blocked the number. 2 hours later, an email came in from Josh. "You're pathetic. You think this makes you better than us? It just proves you've always wanted to punish us. Congrats. You win. Hope your little charity house keeps you warm." I laughed out loud. It does, actually. Warmer than any holiday we ever spent together. The next morning, I brought donuts to the shelter. Miles opened the door, hoodie still on, half awake. He grinned. "Yo. Food? Best kind. Covered in frosting and regret." He stepped aside, let me in. "Hey," he said after a pause. "Thanks for this." "For the donuts?" "For the whole thing." I smiled. "Anytime." 6 weeks after the shelter opened, I got a letter in the mail. A real one. No subject line, no text thread, no passive-aggressive emojis. Just an envelope with shaky handwriting. It was from my dad. Inside, a single sheet of paper, folded twice, like it was scared to be read. I don't expect you to forgive us. But I want you to know, we drove by the house last week. Saw the lights on. Saw the kids. I didn't understand at first. Thought you were just trying to hurt us. But I get it now. You didn't want revenge. You wanted purpose. You turned something broken into something better. I wish I could say we helped you become that kind of person. But I think you became that despite us. Your mother still thinks you'll come around. I won't hold my breath. Anyway, I guess I just wanted you to know we see it now. We see you. Dad. I read it twice. Then set it down, calmly, and didn't cry. Not out of anger. Not out of apathy. Just because I didn't need to anymore. I didn't need them to see me. Because for the first time in my life, I saw myself, clearly. Not the forgotten kid. Not the ATM. Not the disappointment. Just a man who took everything he wasn't given and built something stronger out of it. A few nights later, I dropped by the shelter. No special reason. Just to check in. Miles was on the couch, playing a video game. Another kid was curled up with a throw blanket and a bag of chips. Nina waved from the kitchen, stirring something in a pot. It was loud. Lived in. Messy. Warm. It was a home. Hey, Miles called out. You coming to game night Friday? Depends, I said. You planning to beat me again? Obviously. I grinned. Then I'll be there. As I walked out, I looked back one last time. At the porch where Josh used to shove me. At the window where I used to sit, waiting for someone to notice I existed. At the place where a family broke me, and where healing started for someone else. Do I regret it? No. Not for a second.